Well, the sun did come up today. Unfortunately, I feel like a vampire.
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back into Locked On Bama. AHSA's Luke Robinson, AHSA's Radio Network, Luke Robinson. That's me. And Bama Online's Jimmy Stein. That's him. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. And I'll tell you about Game Time in just a bit. And I hope you didn't blow your money buying Alabama Vanderbilt tickets on Game Time. But if you did, you probably saved a bunch of money. So, and welcome you everydayers. Jimmy, I'm still in shock. Honest to God, I don't know how other Alabama fans are, but yeah, I might have had an adult beverage or two last night, but I mean, I wasn't gone into the wind. And I would wake up in the night a couple of times and I'd be like, it seems like I was worrying about something. Oh yeah, did we lose to Vanderbilt? Oh my God, we lost to Vanderbilt. I don't feel much better. And I don't feel any better after some of the comments from Kalen DeBoer and some of the comments from the players. I don't know that they could have said anything to make me feel better, though, Jimmy. That's the thing.
Yeah, I don't know what they could have said that would fix this. There's nothing to be said. There's only one thing to do, and that is to play another football game and play much better on defense. I do think that, a little bit like the South Florida game last year that was one of the most talked about games when the season was over. One of the things that really griped me about the South Florida game last year, Luke, was the team played terrible. The team didn't play terrible at South Florida. The offense played terrible in South Florida. The defense was fantastic. They gave up 3 points in 60 minutes, getting no help from the offense. The defense, half the team, played great. Well, against Vanderbilt, I would say almost similarly, just the shoe on the other foot. The offense was fine against Vanderbilt. It certainly was good enough to win the game. In fact, they only possessed the ball for 18 minutes and scored 35 points. If you possess the ball for 30 minutes with that kind of production, they actually would have scored 60. So the offense was fine in terms of their points per possession. Offense, thumbs up. Certainly didn't play poorly. The turnovers were a problem, of course, but one turnover was just some kind of more bad luck than anything. I think the interception was a little bit of bad luck, a ball that maybe shouldn't have been thrown, but it wasn't picked off by the guy that was covering the receiver. It wasn't that badly thrown, but the fumble was bad. Just saying, I hope people delineate between the offensive and defensive performances, because the offensive performance was no worse than a C, if not a B. But like I said repeatedly last night, the defense's performance was F minus. I mean, I think I'm comfortable saying, Luke, that was the worst defensive performance in Alabama football history. Now, Alabama defenses have probably played worse, but that's because they weren't good. This team should be pretty good. As a matter of fact, they just beat Georgia, the same defense. Now, I know they gave up some points and yards, particularly in the second half, but our talent level versus theirs, that was probably the worst defensive performance in all of the history of Alabama football.
No, I'm 100% with you. And look, I just want to clarify a few things. Number one, last night, I did a solo show, and then you and I did a show. I mean, we did over an hour's worth of pods after the show because it was so disgusting. And I had some people, and I even made some comments on Twitter about this worst loss in Bama history. I believe that firmly. I believe that wholeheartedly. And they were like, you're crazy. You don't remember 2007? I'm like, I remember 2007. I was there in 84 when we lost to Vanderbilt. I was there. I wasn't there in 07 when we lost to La Monroe, but I was there for one of the La Tech losses. I've been there for some bad losses. This is the worst. And the reason is you have to juxtapose it with number one, what's at stake. Number one, where we are as a program and where Vandy is as a program.
Yeah, I agree. That's a good point. We've lost. I think we've lost to worse teams. We've lost to worse teams. I don't think we're giving Vandy enough credit. We say Vanderbilt in the sense that it's typical Vanderbilt. This is not typical Vanderbilt at all. And we talked about that last week. This isn't typical Vanderbilt. This is a really good team for Vanderbilt and a legitimate SEC opponent to an extent. Certainly Pavia makes them that way. So we've lost to worse teams. But Luke's right. It's the worst loss because of how good Alabama is. Because in 07, when Alabama lost Louisiana Monroe, that Alabama team wasn't very good. They were a 7-6 football team. That wasn't a good team. 84, when they lost to Vanderbilt, that was a 5-6 Alabama team. This is supposedly a national championship contending Alabama team. For them to lose to someone at Vanderbilt's level, I think does arguably make it the worst loss ever, certainly on the short list, because like Luke said, you got to take that all into account. But I would agree with anybody that says that Vanderbilt team's better than Louisiana Tech and Central Florida and Northern Illinois and Hawaii. I don't know that they're better, but they aren't the worst team Alabama's ever lost to. That's certainly not true.
You're right about that. It'd be sort of like saying, okay, if you're going 85 miles an hour, wherever you are, that's bad, because there is there's no speed limit, at least in Alabama. That's, you can have 75 and over, but if you're going 85 and a 20, it's a lot worse than going 85 on I-65. It's a lot worse. And so that's what I'm saying. And so I had some people push back on that, and I'm holding firm. Y'all can do what you want to. Secondly, I had a couple of people, and I had a lot of people back me up, but I had one guy say, I can't believe, because he was basically talking about my solo thing last night. He said, I can't believe you started off talking about his shirt. I said, number one, you've never seen this podcast. That's exactly the first thing I'd go to. Number two, it is the ugliest shirt I've ever seen in my life. And I've been to the Bahamas. I've been to Europe. I've been to all these places where you see people and tourists wear ugly shirts. That's the worst. Again, that is the kind of shirt that they brought in right before they closed the ports. They were like, look, we can't just have these ugly shirts being left out at sea. We got to try and offload them somewhere. And they were the worst. That shirt might as well have said Kansas State 2018 national champion on it. That's how ugly it was to me. I would have rather he wore that shirt. At least it would have been a joke. But
yeah, I don't have as strong of feelings as Luke does on this, but I will agree. I don't think Alabama's football coach should wear a T-shirt on the sideline.
No,
I don't.
Hey, Jimmy.
And I don't. And now, is it fireable? Is it worth sitting down with the athletic director? No, but I don't like it. I think he should dress like he's going to work.
Well, Jimmy, here's the thing. You're right. It's not fireable. And I know I'm making it sound like it is, but I'm only making it sound like it is because we also lost to Vanderbilt. Okay. But you don't know. My brother and I were talking about this morning. You don't have to wear a suit on the sideline anymore. Nobody's asking you to be Gene Stallings and have that, dentist on his off day button down short sleeve shirt with a tie on. Nobody's asking you to do that and
that would be cool.
No, nobody's asking that. What they're asking is there is something in between dressed to the nines and looking like, oh my God, is that homeless veteran okay? I need to give him donate some money to him. Oh my God, he makes $11 million a year. Why is he wearing that? That's what I'm saying.
I largely agree with that. I mean, I don't think he should wear a T-shirt. I'm just not as fired up about it. I don't think it contributed to the loss.
I do. Look. Let me explain.
It's a message.
I think it's all about attitude, Jimmy. And attitude is sort of like, and I think this is where Saban did see coming, and this is where Saban is brilliant. He was like, I can't deal with this. I'm the best there ever was, and I can't deal with this. What he saw coming was kids getting their own podcast, kids getting all the money, kids getting all the fame, kids getting on Twitter, kids getting on TikTok and doing whatever they want to. And fine. And everybody's like, they have the right. They have that right. And they do have that right. And so be it. But the sacrifice for that is discipline. And it's discipline in your everyday moves. It's discipline in what you do to a player who throws his mouthpiece and then kicks the ball at the end of the game because he's pouting, is all that stuff. And when you show up wearing a shirt that is a size and a half too small for you, that is also happens to be ugly, it's going to look like you just woke up and were like, that's the kind of way. I'm going to say this in a way that tries not to make fun of our podcast.
Oh, but
you wore a shirt the same way I wear a shirt to this podcast. I don't get dressed up. I mean, and usually I'm like, oh my God, we got to do a podcast. I'll throw something on. Now I took a shower this morning, but I didn't shave. I was like, I feel like I shouldn't shave. I feel like I shouldn't. I don't deserve it. And so what I'm saying is like the vibe I'm putting off is I'm confused, I'm disoriented, and I don't know what's going on. And that's the vibe Alabama put off yesterday.
I do think that there's some message sending, maybe with with how you dress. And Kane Womack, by the way, I thought looked worse. So maybe there is something to this, because I thought Kane Womack looked worse than Kalen DeBoer, and Kane Womack did a worse job yesterday than Kalen DeBoer did. So maybe there is something to this. But no, I would prefer that that DeBoer dress. He's representing the University of Alabama down there on the sidelines. I mean, and again, I'm not trying to be I don't know. I'm not trying to be
Nitpicky?
No,
elitist?
Elitist. That's the closest word. I'm not trying to. He, like Luke said, I asked him to wear a suit. I'm not asking him to wear anything fancy. I mean, Nick Saban wore a coach's shirt, but it was a polo and buttoned up, and no one ever thought Saban. Again, I would prefer it, but I mean, hey, if you win every single week, you can wear anything you want. But the thing is, they're not winning every single week.
But nobody who dresses like that does do that. That's the thing. Lincoln Riley, you know what he dresses like? A frat boy. You know what Lane Kiffin dresses like? A frat boy. And how do they play? When they're slinging it all over the field against lesser talent, they're kicking butt. When somebody punches them in the mouth, it's like, uh-oh.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. So, they have their clunkers, but yeah, it's. I agree. I didn't like how DeBoer was dressed, and I'll just say I wasn't surprised to see when I went to our message board at the round table at BOL, there were multiple threads and multiple discussions of fans not liking it. So I wasn't surprised to see that.
LinkedIn. When you need to hire a defensive coordinator, LinkedIn. When you're hiring for your small business or your large football team, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has tools to help you find the right professionals for your team fast and for free. LinkedIn isn't just another job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't hire anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're not looking in the right place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional who doesn't wear a too small shirt. There are 2.5 million small businesses on LinkedIn for hiring. You need to be one of them. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions, yeah, they'll apply. And by the way, for somebody if somebody wants to get smart and say, hey, what does Kirby Smart look like? You know what Kirby Smart looks like? He looks like a dude who's been in his office studying film all night, and then he didn't have time to get dressed. There is a difference. There is a difference. And that's what Kirby Smart looks like, and that's why his teams win.
I don't recall Kirby wearing T-shirts, does he?
No, but he does sort of look like, oh my God, I got to throw this pullover on and put a visor on because I hadn't showered in 5 days. Because I've been watching film of New Mexico State. That's what he looks like.
The visor and the hair that makes him look less kept. But let's just play better defense, regardless of what DeBoer's wearing. I mean, there's the key to turning the season around is playing better on defense. They have players.
That's a great question. Here's my question. How? I mean, like, I don't mean to be so simplistic, but I don't know how you instill. Let's quit calling it a swarm defense. That was the opposite of swarm yesterday. Whatever the disbursement is disbursement defense. That was the opposite of swarm. There was
when you have a swarm of wasps and you spray the nest and then they take off in 1,000 different directions. It's that's what they did.
And then they all come back and sting you. That's what I've had that happen. So here's my thing, Jimmy. Look, on first and second down, typically we weren't awful. Third down, I don't know how we're so atrocious on third down. I don't know. Did we not prepare for, like, they have these little counter things and the misdirection? It wasn't like, it felt like to me, and again, I'm not a football savant, but it felt like to me they had about 6 plays. Now, they had some slight variations on each of those 6 plays. But for the most part, they had 6 plays, and they could kill us with any one of them. And on top of that, by the way, it should be noted, their offensive line owned, and I'm talking about owned our defensive line, owned them.
Their average yard per rush really wasn't that great. I mean, that might surprise people. I think they only averaged 3 yards per run play. The problem is they just ran about 1 million run plays, so they ran for 3 million yards. They had about 1 million plays. They were converting the third downs and keeping the ball. They would usually convert the down by making it by half a yard. Alabama also gifted them about 3 first downs through ridiculous penalties like the double number situation, which was really giant in the game. That was a big. We only lost by 1 score. So whenever you lose by 1 score, you can find several things that you can change that would change the outcome. I would argue the double number thing may have been a heavy contributor to the loss, not just the bad possession. Uh, Obviously, here's the thing, though. People will point to, well, we had a tough time defending the option. Alabama hasn't been good against the run all year long. South Florida ran for 200 yards against Alabama. South
Are we
Florida.
not fast, by the way? Are we less speedy than normal?
I think that's a great question, Luke. Because I would tell you that I wouldn't necessarily call, for instance, defending the run, it's just up the middle. Obviously, Tim Keenan's not fast, but you don't expect the nose guard to be fast. Jahad Campbell is not, I wouldn't say he's particularly fast. Malachi Moore is not a fast safety. Um, I think team speed might be a little lower than a typical Alabama defense. Maybe. I think it's a good question. I don't even think outside linebacker Q-Rob, who actually is one of the better players
Yeah, he
on
played
defense
well
yesterday. I thought he played 3 tackles for loss for Q. But he's not the fastest outside linebacker in the world, particularly when you compare him to someone like Dallas Turner, Will Anderson, the guys that he's sort of
Rashaan Evans
replacing. Yeah, I mean, he doesn't run like those guys. So maybe as a whole, maybe it is down a little bit. Damani's very fast at one corner. Um, I wouldn't say Devontae Smith, plays that Husky spot, and I don't think he played well either. I mean, no one did. Malachi, by the way, had the worst game I thought of his career, and then showed all the frustration at the end, making it worse. This is what I would. This is me, and of course I'm not in charge, and everybody should be thankful I'm not. But this is me. I would grade that film. The defensive staff needs to sit down and grade the film harshly. And if you didn't grade well, you don't start next week. Alabama's got 44 scholarship players on defense or so. You got more than 11. If you didn't grade well against Vanderbilt on Saturday, then you don't start next week. I'm not saying you're on the bench and never play again. I'm just saying you don't start next week. Give someone else a chance to play in the place of someone who didn't play well. Grade the film harshly. And if the grade isn't good enough, you're on the bench and you're playing someone else. That's what I would do. I would start with that accountability for how well you play, accountability for how hard they're studying the film, during the week and doing the extra work and putting the time in. I mean, accountability is how you turn it around, because I refuse to believe that this defensive personnel isn't talented enough to do well in this league. I refuse to believe that based on what I see with my own eyes and what we see in recruiting.
and by the way,
And what the NFL thinks of these guys, because we kind of know where most of these guys stand with the NFL. The NFL thinks most of our defenders are pretty good.
and because you look around the league and guess what? Nobody seems to be very good. That's something we can get in. We'll talk about that all week. Now, maybe Texas is good, but we don't really know. I mean, we honest to God don't know. Michigan.
I certainly thought Tennessee was really good until they weren't. Although I would say Tennessee was shockingly bad on offense. Their defense played pretty well.
Their defense. That's what's funny. That's what's funny is their offense was really bad.
Yep.
And their defense was very good. And all we talked about was Nico. This whole. Now I knew Tennessee's defense would be good, but I didn't know necessarily this good. But let's also say this. They were playing an Arkansas team that's pretty challenged offensively. They've also played an Oklahoma team that's pretty challenged offensively. They played an NC State team that is not good. They lost again yesterday. So maybe we overestimated. Maybe we've overestimated everybody. And again, maybe here's another thing. There are people who say we just have to get used to this in the new era, right? I don't think I'll ever get used to losing to Vanderbilt. Forget that.
I think it's
noise.
Alabama didn't lose to Vanderbilt because of the transfer portal. Now,
Agree.
I would agree in the landscape of college football, the transfer portal has acted to kind of introduce more parity than we had before.
Yeah,
I agree with that. But I don't think the transfer portal had anything to do with Alabama. I think it was just a very poor preparation by the coaching staff. I mean, yeah, appreciate that rat trap thing. That didn't work worth a crap, did it? I mean, in terms
I'm
of
going to say this
getting their
again.
attention, obviously not.
Gimmicks and ugly shirts, throw them out the door. I don't want any more nicknames. I don't want any more swarming D. I don't want any. Don't put another rat trap out there. If they
me and you criticized it the day that we heard the story, because
exactly. Everybody was like, "Well, Saban did it."
I compared it to Mike Price throwing those sugar packets when, at his introduction meeting when he got, and I was silly. That I think it's silly. And then we learned that Saban did it. And now I'm supposed to go, well, Saban did it. So, hey, I don't like that Nick did it either. I mean, to me, it's just get the team ready to play football. I mean, just explain to them that, hey, you're coming off a big win. Natural human tendency is to not put full focus, but we're not natural humans. So we are going to put full focus on Vanderbilt. And you do it with the first speech and like, okay, here's the tape. Let's get to work. Just, putting rat traps around the building. That's just, to me, they're college football players. This isn't middle school.
And not only that, Jimmy, here's the other thing. Everybody's been begging. And again, I got on board because I had no choice. But everybody's been begging, hey, we want to be treated fairly. We want to be, make the money we're supposed to make and be treated like adults and blah, blah, blah. Okay. But guess what? When I go to work tomorrow, my father, who's my boss, won't say, Luke, at rat traps, if you don't, you got to, don't be taking that fountain sale for granted tomorrow, or whatever. They will be
sell the fountain or you don't have a job.
Yeah. That's how it works.
Yeah.
And I don't get redshirted.
No. No, that's what I was talking about with the accountability. That's how they're going to turn it around. Hold the players and the coaches accountable for performance, and they can get this turned around. And while I get the worst loss ever and worst defensive loss ever, and I get the gnashing of teeth today, I'm part of it. I get it. But all is not lost. This same team beat Georgia a week ago. The same team. You're
right. It's not all lost. But I'm going to say this too. The people that were like, hey, it's just a loss. No. It's not. Number one, it's not just a loss. And number two, no, I'm venting about this. And you know what? I expect fully Coach DeBoer or somebody over there to step up and say, I don't like, by the way, I hadn't liked any of his comments after the game. I hadn't read them all, but I hadn't liked the ones I've seen. They seem to be sort of brushing it off to my untrained ear. And I'm like, I want him to say, guys, I apologize. I did a very poor job. We will get this fixed. I don't want to hear, I hope we can stay together. That's not what I wanted to hear.
Yeah. And there was a pattern in his 2 years at Washington of not playing well against lesser opponents. I mean, that they did. They would beat Oregon and then almost lose to 3-9 Arizona State. And 2 years ago, we know when they weren't a national championship level team. I'm just saying there is a history. It's a brief history of DeBoer not doing a great job after a big win or against a lesser opponent. So hopefully it's not a situation where this is the thing where they just coach to the level of their opposition. Because that's not going to do here.
That'll get you beat in SEC. All right, got to tell you about Game Time. Love me some Game Time. Love it when we're winning. But use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase when you download that Game Time app, and you will love that Game Time app. It's so easy to use, and it's so cool, and it's so easy just to have it on your phone, use it whenever you need to. I've used it for Major League Baseball and World Series and college basketball, baseball, football. I've used it for concerts, NFL, NBA, everything. And because I love it. And I mean it. I don't even look at the live read. I'm sitting here just telling y'all my own personal experience. And y'all know me. I don't know anything. I don't know much of anything at all. And I'm able to use Game Time. Jimmy's used Game Time. Can you believe it? I'm so proud of him. I mean, it's like they have some kind of special program for people like Jimmy to be able to use it.
It's that easy.
That is our selling point. That's all you need to know. And number one, forget about the best prices. They are the best prices, by the way, no doubt. But the ease of using it. I don't know about y'all, but if I have two apps and one even if it did cost a little more, but it was so much easier to use and I could see where I'm going to be sitting and stuff, That's the one I'm going to use, with the one with good customer service. And that's Game Time. And on top of that, they are cheaper. So go to Game Time, download that app. You will thank me and love on me when you see me. It seemed a bit much. Love on me when you see me. Okay. This is going to be very personal for all of us. First of all, I want to warn everybody, SEC Shorts is going to drag us tomorrow. Rightfully so.
I'm looking forward to it.
I am too.
Oh, it's the Vandy guy, which has been the best.
Guy.
Dare I say it's almost worth losing for this, because it's going to be funny.
It's going to be fantastic.
The Vandy pimp guy and the Ole Miss frat bro.
Yeah.
The two funniest, Hayden, I believe his name.
Yeah.
That's the two funniest characters I think they've ever done. So I'm also looking forward to it.
I'm on board. I mean, and I'll tell you who else is going to do it. His name is like Coach 30 or something like that. I do every week. He does one where he's like every character, and he's like the coach, and he always has a good joke. He's the one that has the shirt that I got that says "Not really an athlete." He's a good dude, really funny. I'll post that, I'm sure. Yeah. Let's talk about this for a second. What I'm really surprised by, while Alabama fans are taking this very hard, including us, obviously. It seems like the national media isn't taking it as hard as I thought, because I just looked at ESPN and CBS. They both still have us projected in the playoffs. I don't project us in the playoffs right now, because here's my thing. And I know that there's a lot of football left. There's a lot of meat on the bone, whatever analogy you want to throw out there. But I'm telling you, Jimmy, I don't know how am I supposed to feel good about stopping anybody from now on? That's my thing. So why am I going to project us to figure out how to stop somebody?
Yeah, the focus doesn't need to be on where's Alabama seeding and is this going to follow. The sole focus needs to be on improving the team. The team needs to be better, one game at a time for sure, one quarter at a time, and the team, and I think the fans helping the team. The focus should be on beating South Carolina. 1 point, 2 points, 3 points, 5 points. Just win the game and start building back. And hey, I'll end the show on an up note, and this is just how I feel right now. I mean, I believe Alabama will beat South Carolina next Saturday. I'm not going to predict a big blowout win because I think we're having to kind of start over in so many ways. But I think Alabama's going to beat South Carolina next week, and I think we're going to see an improved defense. An improved defensive effort. And again, I want to emphasize that the offense was pretty good. It wasn't perfect, but the offense played good enough to win in Nashville, just like the defense played good enough to win in Tampa against South Florida last year. I mean, the offense was fine. This was a defensive meltdown of epic proportions.
Here's the thing. I think we can still get into the playoffs, because again, 10-2 or 11-2, maybe even 10-3 gets us in with this schedule. Now, the loss being to Vandy may override some of that.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend a third loss with Vandy being one of them. But 2 losses, you still get. There's still room to lose another and get in.
No, you're in with 10-2 with Bama with this schedule. I'm 100% on board with that, because you also have a win over Georgia. And if it's 10-2, you will have had a win over either Tennessee or LSU, or Oklahoma. Maybe your losses, or both, and you're lost in the SEC title game or something, right? It'd be 11-2 then. But here's the thing. See, I'm looking at the schedule, and I'm forecasting now that, okay, we play South Carolina next week. Yeah, I think we'll beat South Carolina. I do. Call me a cockeyed optimist like Billy Mumphrey from Seinfeld if you want to, and that's fine. But I think we will, because I think South Carolina is Vanderbilt with a worse quarterback. And because they have a worse quarterback, I think we will stop them, and we're at home.
They don't have Diego Pavia. We're not giving that kid enough credit. He's a cocky little dude, isn't he? But man, he backs it. He backs it up. So more power to him. But South Carolina, more dudes than Vanderbilt, a better team than Vandy, more good players than Vandy, but not nearly as good at quarterback. And I think that's going to make the big difference.
And who knew both of his brothers were the cowboy from the Village People? Anyway, all right. So
that would be funnier if we'd won. If we won the game, that would be hilarious.
But okay, so then we play Tennessee. Yeah, I'm not feeling terrible about that.
Vandy loss may have refocused us. I mean,
maybe. But what I'm saying is, see, the way it shapes up, I think, I think we can. I think Tennessee somehow we can beat them. I don't know why I'm optimistic. I'm not saying I'm optimistic. I'm just saying that's the place I thought we were going to lose. Now I feel a little better about that because Tennessee also lost to Arkansas, who I don't think is very good. Then you talk about LSU. See, LSU may match up great with us in the sense that, yeah, they may score a bunch of points on us, but they'll score them fast. And then their defense is so bad we can score fast. So maybe we have a shot.
That game does look high scoring for sure today. But again, defense accountability, improving, maybe some changes in the lineup. Again, that's what I would recommend based on grades in the Vanderbilt game, changes in the lineup, just something that would provide a little bit of a spark. But I think they're going to practice today, Sunday. They're practicing this morning, a little later this morning from when we record this. And I think it might be the most critical practice under DeBoer today. In terms of, you might find out today about, is this team ready to take on 2024 or are they going to fold? And I think to some extent you find out at practice.
All right, that's going to do it for today's podcast. We'll be back tomorrow. We're going to be happier tomorrow. Jimmy, let's make a pact. Happier and more optimistic.
Well, we're going to start talking South Carolina. I think one thing we didn't do a good enough job last week, we specifically said on Sunday, hey, we're going to talk about Georgia all week. We got so much to say. We're going to talk about Georgia.
That's on us.
And that's on us. And what I'm saying is, if we have that attitude, the team may have had the same attitude because we all share the same space. We really do. I mean, I know they're in the war and we're just watching and cheering, but I do think that attitudes in the fan base permeate the football team. And if we're just focused on talking about Georgia all week, then they're probably doing the same thing. So we need to do our job and turn the page to South Carolina. And we're going to do that starting tomorrow.
And I'll say that works vice versa too. Like the team also was probably more lax. So we were more lax because everybody's, roll tiding into Hollywooding and do it. By the way, Hollywood was still awesome. How he stayed in bounds for that touchdown grab. We hadn't talked about that enough. We'll talk about it later. We got to run. That's going to do it for today. We'll be back tomorrow more. Until then, roll tide, everybody.
Roll tide.